One of the pioneers behind the sound known as grunge is gone.
Kurt Cobain, the lead singer of the enormously popular rock band Nirvana, is dead.
The lead singer of Nirvana, one of the world's most popular rock bands, has been found dead at his home in Seattle.
Kurt Cobain's body was found inside a garage apartment adjacent to his Seattle home.
Police said Kurt Cobain had apparently shot himself and a suicide note was found nearby.
Police found what is said to be a suicide note at the scene, but have not yet divulged its contents. Cobain, who was 27, had reportedly been missing for about 6 days, according to his mother.
Nirvana, heart-shaped box.
Well, I'm not the most vocal person in the world, but it'd be silly to say that it doesn't feel like there's something missing, and I think about Kurt every day, and I'd like to thank everybody for paying attention to our band. Thanks.
Does it ever talk about it at all?
Yeah. I mean, don't you think it would? Then why would you even ask?
Passing?
Yeah.
Maybe enough time has passed.
Well, no, I don't know. I don't talk about it to people I don't really know. So there's got to be a line drawn between your personal life and this, this is all fun, being in a rock band and being on TV, it's cool and everything, but
usually every journalist's job is to get the scoop. Every journalist wants the scoop, every journalist wants to get the quote, and usually they don't have any respect for the person that they're interviewing. It's a very selfish thing. Like, I'm here to pull as much garbage out of this person as I can to make my piece the thing that everyone reads and sees. So, yeah, of course. I mean, still to this day, people ask me questions that they know I'm not about to answer, but still, they'll slip it in here and there, and then ask me why. Like, why won't you talk about it? It's none of your business. It's none of your fucking business. Give me a break. It's so stupid. It's like, say your mom died, okay, and I met you for 5 minutes, and I start asking, well, God, how did you feel after your mother died? And then I go tell everybody. It's absolutely appalling. I think it's just disgusting. So.
How does anyone know? I mean, how does anyone know the way I feel, I mean, I don't sit around and speak in interviews about things that are really deep and personal. I mean, that's just nobody's business. I'm in a band, I play music, people jump around, and hey, that's fun. Rock and roll is like a circus, Look at you go in there and there's 8,000 people and 2 big screen TVs, and it's like, hey, this is the big top, this is the circus. Has nothing, to me, it's totally separate. From when I go home, I have a wife, I have a nice, comfortable living, and it's nice. I mean, I live a really normal life. I don't live this glamorous rock and roll thing, and I like to separate the two.
I mean, who tells you your lead singer's gone? I mean, how do you find that out?
I think maybe it was on the news or something weird. I don't know. I don't remember.
The news.
Like, you didn't get a call. You just heard it.
I think it happened, and then it just all happened, like, and the phone's off the hook, and
people are calling this and that.
Yeah.
And what do you do that day? You just go into shock. I mean, you can't go back.
Got together. Everybody went over to Chris Novoselic's house and,
hung out. Because you were there comforting one another.
Yep. It was just such a weird time, and we were kids. I was like 25 years old or something like that.
Yeah.
So it was strange, and I couldn't listen to music. I couldn't listen to Nirvana. Just lost. I went through a really dark period where I couldn't really even listen to the radio because it broke my heart just to hear music.
Incredible experience while I was there. And then probably the most devastating time of my life. After Kurt died, I couldn't even listen to music for months. No radio, no TV, nothing. I just couldn't stand the sound of music. I was scared of music.
I was numb and lost. And couldn't listen to music. couldn't stand to hear someone else saying about their pain or their heartbreak or their joy. So I turn off the radio, I put my instruments away, because the music that I had devoted my life to had now betrayed me.
Okay, but wait a second. When you hear that Kurt Cobain is dead, okay, that's it. It's over. The band is gone.
Yes.
Do you just sit there? Do you immediately get depressed and go, "That's the end of my musical career"?
Well, yeah, I mean, what do you kind of freak out? It's like, what are you going to do?
Right. First of all, somebody you know and somebody you love.
And then you have to kind of sit around and do nothing.
First of all, I didn't really have a plan, you know, like when everything's sort of turned upside down and shaken up like that, you just wake up every day thinking, who am I? Where am I? What am I doing? You know, I remember the day after Kurt died, how strange it felt to wake up knowing that he wasn't with us anymore. And that, like, I had another day, you know, like, okay, so what am I going to do with today?
Right.
You know, when Kurt died, I remember the next day and thinking, I still get to live. So I'm gonna live every day like it's my last one. Even if it's the worst day, I'm gonna try to appreciate it. And I still feel that way. It was then that I started to realize, oh, okay, you have to do everything once again. Meaning, okay, I'm going to make a pot of coffee, and this is my first pot of coffee since Kurt's gone. I have to go upstairs and get dressed. This is the first thing I'll wear since Kurt has been gone. And it goes like that.
Was it all good with Kurt? I mean, were you on good terms?
Things got weird towards the end.
So did that make you feel even weirder about his death? Were you sort of estranged?
Yeah, I mean, everybody sort of was. I think at that point it had sort of split off, and it just got really weird.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know if anybody really does, but it had gotten to the point where
he wasn't talking to you.
Well, they were just, you know, I don't do drugs.
Right.
I haven't done drugs since I was a kid.
Right.
20 years old, I think, is when I stopped. And so, you know, there were drugs around, and there was like the people who did the drugs, and then there were people that didn't do the drugs. And I didn't do the drugs. And so I was just out of that world, you know. And if you're in it, you're in it. If you're not, you're out.
So in the last couple of months, you hadn't even been in touch with Kurt.
No, we had.
Right.
And but
were you close to breaking up the band anyway? Do you think you guys would have broken up because Kurt was going his own way?
I think at that point it was important that we take a break. I think everybody felt that way. It was like time to take a break.
There are all these rumors about Courtney Love. Have you read this stuff? No. I just read it. I went on researching you yesterday. You know, I wanted to see if I could find out stuff about you. And all it was like, hey, Courtney Love killed Kurt.
Oh, that's been going on for a while.
Right. And even this movie that they put out about Kurt Cobain's life and Nirvana and all this stuff, in it they implied, I guess, that
well,
Courtney...
there was this public investigator. No, I'm sorry, a private investigator.
Right.
That went out and I guess started this theory. You know, just kind of like a
totally slanderous
conspiracy theory.
Totally slanderous.
Yeah, it's kind of I mean, it's weird. I mean, I don't really pay attention to that stuff because it's too much of a headache.
Right, and you never felt that any of that was true.
No, I mean, it's just you know.
You like Courtney.
We get along. I haven't talked to her in ages.
I could never understand how Kurt was married to her. Never. She seemed way too like she put too much pressure on him or something. Like she's too.
She was a handful.
A handful,
she
not a stable force in his life. That was just. I mean, I'm an outside observer. I don't know anything.
See, I'm a very mellow person, so I stick to the mellow side of things.
See, you would have to be mellow.
I'm still processing Kurt's death, you know, because I have to explain it to my kids, who love Nirvana. Because for the longest time, you know, I would try to process and talk about it with friends and family and things like that.
I knew what people wanted me to write. I knew what Nirvana fans wanted me to write. I knew what people might expect me to write, and I didn't want to write that. I thought, okay, maybe I'm just going to write about, to try to explain a much more broad piece about loss and mourning, and how grief is determined or measured. Like, is it measured by time? Do you feel the loss of someone more if you've known them your entire life, or less if it's in such a short period of time? And I don't think time has anything to do with it. I think it has to do with the depth of the emotional relevance of that relationship. So it was the same with Kurt. Even though we knew each other for a much shorter period of time, the life that we lived in those 3.5 years, I mean, that was almost a lifetime in itself. And so much had changed, and we were young, and it was just this crazy turning point in our lives. And because of everything that had happened in that 3.5 years, it hurt more, And to the idea that there's some people in life that you kind of emotionally prepare yourself to lose, almost like a self-defense mechanism where you kind of build these walls around yourself to feel the pain a bit less when you lose them. But it never works, It doesn't. It's not like some sort of vaccine that will make you immune to pain. It doesn't work that way. So, it was difficult to go back and reflect on everything that had happened, but it felt good to be able to put it on paper because I was working through these things as I was writing them, that I've talked to people close to me about these moments in my life, but not really too much, not deeply in public. When you lose someone, especially in that way, there's just so many questions, you're just left with this void and all of these questions. And I think it's important to rely on the moments that you had, good or bad, to use that lens instead of one that's been kind of focused years later. So
one of the difficulties is that once Kurt died, everybody had to go back and parse through in utero and read lyrics like they're tea leaves leading you somewhere. Yeah. And that feels like a recipe for incredible bullshit and misunderstanding.
I still to this day, if I listen to that record, I'll find things or I'll feel things that I didn't necessarily feel 25 years ago. Not just in light of everything that had happened, but of course that, everything that did happen can, kind of screw the lens a little bit or distort maybe what it felt like before and what it feels like now.
You said you don't remember him as a tortured genius, and I'm the same, but I don't remember my friend as someone that had all this angst. I remember her as someone I had a lot of fun with and someone I could douche around with, and this really sweet girl. And you said the same about him. It's just, and I think it's really important to crystallize those memories to almost own the legacy, isn't it? In your own head, if nothing else.
Well, hindsight can be a blurry lens, like as much as sometimes you imagine that you find more clarity over time. Sometimes that's not always the case. And, I think that when you lose someone, especially in that way, there's just so many questions, you're just left with this void and all of these questions. And I think it's important to rely on the moments that you had, good or bad, to use that lens instead of one that's been kind of focused years later. So
there are people out there that have opinions, strong opinions about who he was and what he meant and what you guys meant. And it must just seem surreal to you at times. Like, no, that was our friend. There was 3 of us. We were in a van together. Yeah. And it has now become, This
The
IMAX
best is
projection on the world.
when my kids sometime will ask me, let's say, my daughter Harper and I were driving in the car not long ago, 6 months ago, and a Nirvana song came on. And we don't listen to Nirvana at home. This Nirvana song comes on, she's singing along to the words. And I'm thinking, wow, that's weird. I've never heard her listen to a Nirvana song. How does she know a Nirvana song? And she says, she said, Dad, how old were you when you made this song? I said, God, I think I was like 22, maybe. She goes, oh, how old was Kurt? I said, I think he was maybe like 23, 24. She goes, what was he like? And I'd say, well, he was really nice. He was kind of shy, sometimes quiet, but he was cool. And
she can get super pissed off.
Yeah. But she says, well, he was shy. Was he shy around people that he knew or people that he didn't know? And I said, well, kind of a little bit of both. And she said, God, that's so strange that someone who feels shy like that could write these songs and sing them for everyone to hear and then stand on stage in front of 100,000 people and play them. I thought that was so cool because I think she wasn't looking so much at that other thing.
Yep.
She was looking at the person, right? And, after Nirvana was over, that curtain got sort of pulled away.